Hi guys, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm here with another special from before the 90 days. And I'm going to be talking to you today about Avery and Omar. So as we know, last week Avery and Omar got married. Well, in fact, Omar got married to an elderly gentleman from the Moth. But I'm sure they've now sorted their paperwork out and Avery and Omar are married. So this video is going to look at two things. It's going to look at both the behaviour and the body language of Omar to see if we can decipher if he's playing games with Avery. Is Omar really in love with Avery? Or is this just Operation Habibi Green Card? So as we know, Avery's very single-minded. She was a cheerleader when she was at school, and she was also a gymnast, and she was homecoming queen. So Avery isn't the type of girl that fades into the background. She's up there, she's up front, she's in your face. She's got great powers of persuasion. She convinced her mum to take her to Lebanon. But also, Avery likes a fad or two as well. She changed at one point to be a vegetarian, and her little brother very helpfully sold her out and told us all that Avery was sneaking fried chicken to her room during her vegetarian downtime. So she's going to be quite formidable, but definitely there is more to Omar than meets the eye. Guys, thank you so much for all your support. I'm hurtling towards 7,000 subscribers and I'm so happy I'm creating content that you guys obviously like. If you haven't done it yet, please click the subscribe button. What are you waiting for? So I really started looking at Omar's body language just before the wedding. There was something off about the way he was behaving that really gave me pause for thought. Avery seemed very excited about the wedding and Omar less so, but it struck me when I was watching them interact that Omar had this calmness about him. So Ashley started out by saying, "I'm really excited for our wedding tomorrow." Omar says nothing. Interesting. And then Ashley said, "Are you really excited to kiss me tomorrow?" And he looked at her with a quizzical look on his face, but you could tell he didn't like her saying that. And later on to the VT, he said, "We're very different. Ashley's very loud and I'm very quiet. And in my culture, it's not normal for girls to talk about kissing people and things of this nature." So you can tell already he has plans and he has designs on stopping Avery do this, but he hasn't yet started to try. I wonder why not? Because he wants to wait until after the wedding. So I do think that Omar is hiding something. I don't think he's into Avery, and even though when I first saw them I thought it was the only real relationship besides Jennifer and Tim that might go somewhere, I really do see now that he does just want the green card. So my first evidence for this is that he pretended to be American and pretended to be in America when he first met Avery. So they met on a Muslim dating app, and obviously Omar's fairly easy on the eye. So it seems as if Avery was smitten immediately. He told her for a good while that he was in America and that he was from America, and when she pushed for them to actually meet up, he then told her that he is actually from and lives in Syria. There's obviously two issues here. Firstly, what's the point of looking for love with someone from a different country? You only ever do it if you're interested in going to that country. He's a trainee dentist, so it seems as if he's from quite a well-off family, so there's no real reason for him to be doing this for just a financial gain. I do think it is for the green card. So if you're looking for someone abroad, you know that you can't meet them, you know there's going to be logistical problems in you getting together, so it makes things very difficult unless you have a plan in mind. And of course the second issue is, why the lie? If you're in Syria and you just happen to catch sight of a beautiful woman, and Avery is a very pretty girl, and you think, I just have to be with this person, why didn't you say, no, I'm actually in Syria right from the word go? Because you sought to lure her in and then tell her the truth. Once you'd managed to convince her that you were the right person for her and she was too in love with you and the idea and the romanticism of it all to turn back. But guys, how they met is all background noise now. That's really the least of Avery's worries. I think it's highly possible that Omar's hiding secrets. I think it's also highly possible that Omar doesn't actually even like Avery or her personality. And I have got a feeling he's going to chew her up and spit her out. And all for £6,000. Well done, Terry. Way to negotiate. So one of the main problems that I have is that we haven't seen any family or friends at all from Omar. And I think this is indicative of somebody who's running some sort of little scam. Of course, they don't want to involve anybody else in their little scam. Okay, so maybe it might have been difficult for some of his family to get over for the wedding. I know one of his sisters is in the US as far as I know, so she could have potentially travelled over for the wedding. That didn't happen. And normally if we can't actually see the person, we normally have a FaceTime with the mum or with the dad or just with any one of his family. He claims that where he lives in Syria, it's absolutely fine and there are no problems. So it can't be a Wi-Fi stroke civil war issue. So I'm wondering, why haven't we heard from any of Omar's family or friends? Interesting, real interesting. But what's really convinced me that Omar is not all that he says is his body language. And Omar has multiple tells when he's talking both with the TLC production crew and with Avery, which lead me to believe that he's not telling the truth. So the first one of these is when Avery and Omar are sitting on the bed and they're talking about their night of passion from the night before. So Avery starts caressing him and she's touching his head and neck, and at one point Omar actually flinched. So he moved his head away, and the whole time she was caressing him, instead of looking at her or touching her hand or arm, he looked at his watch and he was looking down. He looked very uncomfortable and he was playing with his ring. Even though he was saying to her that he was 100% and 200% comfortable with her, he was basically grooming himself, which is self-soothing. Playing with his ring, looking down, looking at his watch, playing with his watch strap. All of these body language tells are saying that he's grooming and self-soothing. So he's basically playing with things to try and reassure and to calm himself. Also because he feels so awkward, he doesn't know what to do with himself or to do with his hands. So playing and fiddling with things help to give him something to do. And the second body language tell concerns Omar's speech patterns. So basically when she was talking to him and she said, "Habibi, was it weird having your first kiss?" He paused. There was quite a pause before he said, "Yes." And again, when the TLC production crew and when Avery were talking to him in the VT, it seemed again as if he was lying when they were talking about kissing. He explained to the crew with a few ums and ahs and pauses in his conversation that this is his first kiss and he's never kissed somebody before. And as he was talking to TLC about this kiss, his voice was stilted, there were pauses, and don't even get me started on his eye movements. But his speech patterns lead me to believe that he's not telling the truth about never having kissed before. And also it's interesting just to note that Avery actually said last night he didn't seem nervous about anything. And let's all be real, that's quite strange considering it's his first time. And Omar's eye movements, well, they're no better. As we all know, people try to avoid looking at somebody if they're not telling the truth. And it seems to me that each time Omar says something which is a bit suspect, he never wants to look Avery in the eye. So still looking at the scene where he talks about his first kiss, his eye movements were very interesting. Although Avery was looking at him, he didn't look at Avery at all. He glanced at her at the start of the conversation and then he looked straight at the camera, and at some points he was looking to the left and looking up and looking down whilst he explained, "This is the first time I've had a kiss, but she's my wife now." And even when he said she's my wife, he didn't look at her, he didn't gesture to her, he didn't point at her, he just said she's my wife, and so now that's why I've kissed. And then at the end of what he was saying, he peeped out of the corner of his eyes at Avery, but he didn't actually move his head and look at her. Again, all very strange body language indicative of lying. Just in the interest of balance, some of these body language tells are indicative of people being uncomfortable with what's being said and uncomfortable with shows of public affection, which might also be true of Omar. But something tells me that it's not the first kiss he's had. Again, it's no massive deal, but why the lie? I think he wants Avery to feel special, to feel chosen, to feel as if she's the only one that he's ever kissed, and I simply don't buy it. And guys, let's not forget his body language when Terry was there and she was crying about them potentially going to Syria. He was slouched back in his seat, and at some points he was actually smiling, grinning, and again, in terms of body language, you could tell that he was enjoying this exchange. He was enjoying the fact that Terry was in some way upset. And he certainly didn't look massively upset when Terry was crying. And again, we see the pauses in the conversation. When he got a message on his phone from his gym partner, Celine, it was very interesting to note that again there was a slight pause when Avery said, "Oh, who's that?" And he said, "Celine." "Who's she?" A slight pause and, "It's my gym partner." And he almost baited himself again because Avery said, "I wonder if they're going to like me when I get to Syria." And he was like, "Who?" And she was like, "Your friends." "Oh, yeah. Omar, you were just allegedly speaking about one of your friends, Celine, your gym partner." So it's strange that straight after that, he didn't seem to know what Avery was talking about. And at that same scene, at the same table, again, his eye movements let him down. Avery actually said to him, "Are you sad?" And he said, "About what?" And she said about me leaving in 5 days, about me going back to America. He did a very pronounced look to the right, and then he said, yes, of course I'm sad. A very pronounced look to the right like that is indicative of lying. So in body language terms, it would seem as if he's not at all sad that Avery's going home. And then finally, we have the way that he's behaved towards Avery. So he knew what Avery was like, he knew that she was headstrong, and he basically played the quiet little boy. So he never pulled Avery up on anything, he never lost his temper, he never said, Avery, don't do this or don't do that. But the moment the ring was on Avery's finger and they were man and wife, he then starts saying things such as, I don't like you dancing in the street in any country. She's my wife. She has to do what I say. I have to tell her what's right and wrong. And most damning of all, if we have an argument, she should be quiet. He never said any of these statements before the wedding. Again, why? If you want a real and proper long-lasting relationship, you would have broached some of these topics as you're getting to know each other before your wedding to kind of get them ironed out. He didn't want them ironed out because he wanted the wedding to go ahead. He wanted the ring on her finger, and then he's going to lay down the law. He definitely has an attitude of, that's my wife, she's mine, and now she has to do what I say. So guys, what do you think? Do you think there's more to Omar than meets the eye? I think he's basically pulled the wool over everyone's eyes. And when this series first started, I was kind of Team Omar because I thought that Terry was unnecessarily rude with regard to his religion, and he did seem quite genuine. But now as we see this other more controlling side of him emerge, immediately after the wedding, it tells me that Omar has a game plan. I think overall his body language doesn't show that he's particularly in love with Avery. He's quite standoffish. Even when she's touching him or looking at him, he doesn't really seem to hold her gaze or engage her properly unless he's telling her what she should and shouldn't do. And at one point when she's talking about shopping and dancing and so on, he rolls his eyes to the ceiling. At several points when the VT was on, he was rolling his eyes and looking to the ceiling as if to say, oh God, here we go. And to me, that isn't the action of a newlywed, and it isn't the action of someone who's deeply in love with his partner. Guys, what do you think? Please put your comments down below. Please don't forget to like the video, and also don't forget to subscribe if you've yet to do so. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.